It's a beautiful day here in Perth as we welcome you back to Barbagallo Raceway. Look at this monster crowd. I've been coming here for about 280 years and I've never seen one this big, Mark Osler. It's really big.
No, they love their motorsport over in WA. They've absolutely packed out Barbagallo Raceway. There's not a spot anywhere. The queue outside the track was several kilometres long.
And if only the people stuck in the queue could get in.
If only we'd got your police escort, Baz, we would have all got here at the same time.
It is a tremendous crowd. It genuinely is the largest crowd we've ever seen at this racetrack, and they're here for a feast of sprint racing today. This is race number 2, and there's the field. They're on the start-finish straight, set to go away on their warm-up lap, and it's a Ford Holden affair at the top of the queue, with Radisich having won yesterday's round 1 sprint race. Skaife alongside. There's the lineup. Russell Ingall was strong. He finished 3rd. Glenn Seton will be alongside him. So it's Ford Holden, then Holden Ford. Greg Murphy 5th, then Craig Lowndes for Gibson Motorsport. Todd Kelly and Paul Morris shuffled down the order to 8th.
Stephen Johnson, he's still struggling with a nasty dose of the flu there. He's back in 9th. Jason Bright in 10th. Jason Barbagallo and Cameron McConville doing well in the Optus machine. John Bow and Stephen Richards, Stephen Ellery and Paul Wheel in 16.
Tony Longhurst, Marcus Ambrose, dogfire, misfire yesterday, but no problems in this morning's warm-up. The car will be strong. McLean, Bernard, Larkham Jones, Tander and Rodney Forbes 24.
If you have a look down the right-hand side of the Shell Helix scoreboard, you'll notice those yellow boxes. That shows where the car's qualified, and so you can determine how they've been progressing throughout the day. Keep in mind the finishing positions from one race determine the starting grid for the next.
Just about everybody's garage who you go and say, oh yeah, we've changed it for today. They're all chasing to get the thing set up. His car, Radichich's car yesterday was brilliant.
It's been amazing. This is going to be a real battle though, because Mark Skaife, as a result of that drive yesterday, has forged his way up to 2nd place. That means he'll start on the outside of the front row. So this first sprint to turn 1 is going to be a thriller.
A relatively simple layout, but a complex place to get the car set up right for. It's just a very awkward combination here, and as mentioned already, this is the first time that this control tyre has been used here at Barbagallo. Last year, the tyre was introduced after this round. This was round 2 in 2000, and the new tyre was introduced for the Clipsal 500 in Adelaide. So it's taken teams, drivers, engineers some time to figure out the nuances of this tyre around the track, and various people who you might expect to be further up the grid are battling at the moment trying to get their cars to work right. Only 8 tyres allocated for this sprint race.
A lot of guys learned some hard lessons yesterday, going out with a setup that was too stiff for this track. It really did torture the tyres. Paul Morris was one of the drivers who found that out the hard way. He had a brilliant setup to get a lot of speed out of the car over one flying lap, but once he started to string a few together, the car really started to punish the rear tyres and he slipped back through the field. I
don't think I've seen the cars pitch and roll as much as you dive on the brakes, lift on the nose out of corners, and the corner onto the start and finish straight when they hit the curb there. It's incredible.
Fires them up into the air. They're looking to try and get some sensitivity back in the car. I remember Larry Perkins yesterday in race 1 firing off into the sand trap and buried the car. He's right at the tail end of the field. He'll actually have to negotiate the final right-hander before he can even get onto the start-finish straight. Huge field.
That was a loose bleed screw apparently in his caliper. Let the pressure out.
Simple things can cost so much. Here's the front row of the grid. Mark Skaife, qualified 5th, fought his way up to 2nd in race 1 yesterday. Now he finds himself alongside the pole position man, the man who has dominated so far. Broken the Holden Racing Team stranglehold on qualifying and race 1. Can he do it in race 2?
All clear and set now for a start.
Quite a long time.
I think they've had a line failure. They're using the flag to actually get the field away, and it's a great start for Radisich. Seton's made contact with Lowndes. Lowndes has made a blinder. He's jumped up from a long way down the grid. Battling on the outside with Skaife as they go through turn 1. Ingall's right alongside him. This will be interesting when they get to the S's. Rusty will not give up in a hurry. Radisich, then Skaife. Turn 4. An awkward start. Something went wrong with the automatic light system and they had to resort to the national flag, and Glenn Seton's got problems. If you look at the FTR Falcon, you'll notice that the front end of the air dam of the car is actually dismounted on one of the sides there, and it's dragging on the road. That will inevitably force him to stop. At the very least, it'll make the car quite slow because it'll upset the aerodynamics at the front of the car.
Fantastic start from Craig Lowndes. Really leapt up there, took advantage. Now he's got his mirrors full of the Kmart car as they thunder down toward the final turn onto pit straight. Radisich in control from Skaife.
It does look as if Craig's dropping back a little bit, actually. Oh, look at this here. That's Cameron McLean.
Skaife running with Radisich, looking down the inside at turn 1. End of lap 1, 19 to run. Ingle, Lowndes 4th.
Oh, look
Look at this.
Elbows are out coming through turn 1. Paul Morris was in there as well. Hopefully they've got through cleanly. This is looking out the back of the Rats car. The Shell Helix Ford that has dominated proceedings so far, but Mark Skaife hooked in right behind the Shell Ford now.
And Morris actually lost 2 spots in that as they arrived in turn 1. He went into the corner in 8th. And then he came out 11th.
It's going to be a real test of who's got the best chassis set up here, which car is using its tyres better. Mark Skaife was sort of hampered in his run toward the front yesterday when he got bottled up behind Paul Morris and then spent many laps trying to fight his way past Russell Ingall. Now he's got no one in front of him but Paul Radisich. It's going to be a fascinating battle.
And remember also, as we've said, we've only got 8 tyres for the 3 sprint races this weekend. And so it means that there'll be some interesting combinations in the way in which people are cycling their tyres to make up a set for this race. For example, would you choose a young, complete second set of tyres, or would you use yesterday's tyres, or a mix of them? If you want to keep your better set for the 3rd race. You can see that Glenn's really having trouble. The car is not sticking to the road at the front end. Look at the way Lowndes just goes straight through the pack. He clips Glenn Seton on the way, and he had enormous speed on the run to the first corner.
That was an incredible start.
That was brilliant, wasn't it?
Well positioned on the outside too. Set him up for the next corner. But look at Glenn Seton, the front spoiler on the FTR Ford. It looks like it's working its way loose. They just stay there, but you can see it's completely come away from the car.
I hope
right-hand side fixing.
Sorry, Mark. I hope that they don't bring him in. I mean, it doesn't appear as though it's actually going to detach itself from the car, but clearly it's to the performance detriment of the FTR Falcon. He's got Kelly all over him, and Kelly's actually driving in the marbles down the inside as they come down to turn 7, the final corner. You can see that there's enormous rubber and dust build up on the edges of this track, and that's a tremendous shot looking rearward. This is Murphy going up the inside of Lowndes, and he's done the business as they go to turn 1.
59.06 was the first time through. Now it's a 58.9. So Paul Radisich and Mark Skaife are both in the very high 58s at the moment, but expect that to pump out as these tyres start to wear down and lose some speed. We're on board with Craig Lowndes. He's on a charge. He's really on a mission here. Brilliant start.
I think he's still got a car that's not ultimately balanced the way he'd want. He certainly wouldn't want to drop a position to Greg. Greg came off the final corner stronger and was able to make a strong run down the inside as they approached turn 1. And
was there a contact there?
Yeah, I think there was, and it's probably the 2nd or 3rd time that we've seen a little tap there. So these two are racing very hard. Makes you wonder whether perhaps there might have been some contact the other way around. We've got a Valvoline car in.
It's Sparks. No.
Yes, it is. 35.
Yeah.
So he's miles off in the sand trap there.
Me.
Now, if they bring a safety car out, keep in mind that under sprint race regulations, safety car laps count as race laps. So it could have quite an effect on the outcome of this race.
Glenn's losing position.
Cars are able to cycle around on slower laps for a few turns.
Johnson.
So the order at the moment is Radisich, Skaife, Russell Ingall, Greg Murphy, Craig Lowndes, Seton, Todd Kelly, Stephen Johnson, Paul Morris and Jason Bright rounds out the top 10.
Just an update on Glenn Seton. He won't come in as a front of that front bar. The team says he's not complaining too much of any problems and he will persevere.
Well, he really has to, because there's important points on. You can see the yellow flag flying down there at turn 6. Barbagallo is off on the very extreme outside of the sand trap down there. He is buried a long way off the road. He must have gone down there and just speared off at a great rate of knots. You very rarely see cars that far off the edge of the road down there.
You've got to feel sorry for old Stephen Johnson.
Yeah.
He's so sick. He looks like death warmed up. He's got some viral thing.
He speaks highly of you, Barry.
Look at this pack of cars here. Morris under brakes, trying to go up the inside of Jason Bright. There may have been a little kiss there, but not enough to put both cars out. Morris continuing to attack the back of the Holton Racing Team Commodore. They're almost 4 wide as they come down the pit straight this time.
That's amazing.
What a gaggle of cars.
Yeah, incredible.
You can see that Seton continuing to suffer with no front end grip on that car because of the broken fixing on the air dam. And he's just drifting back through the pack. John Bow rounds him up there. This is a tremendous shot that we have from the cherry picker right in the middle of the circuit. This is the left-hand at turn 4. Look at this group of cars.
Paul Morris is in 9th. It goes right back to, I think, Rodney Forbes.
Look at the car. Look at the car. How many people there? Quite incredible.
Huge train of cars. Good competitive run so far from the improving Lansvale Racing Team. Cameron McConville just missed out on making the top 10 by about 2 or 300ths of a second.
We might see what's happened to Barbagallo here. Oh, he was actually involved with Morris. I don't quite know who did what to who. but he's a long way out there. You don't want to be stranded in the beach down there that far without a towel.
Not having a good year. Bargs, he's 15th in the points. That's not going to help his title chase. Meanwhile, the battle continues between Paul Morris and Stephen Richards in the second of the FTR Fords. Optus Commodore's got a bit of battle damage on the left-hand door, and there's Bargs. What a disappointing day.
Just to walk around this track and you'll find evidence of how destructive this surface really is. There's big strips of rubber lying around the outside, and despite this control tyre being about 3 compounds harder than last year's tyre, they're peeling off in strips rather than balls. Now think about driving around on a giant cheese grater, and this is really what this surface is all about.
Yeah, pretty apt description.
Yeah, very well put. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our viewers through TV1 in New Zealand, also welcoming viewers throughout the United States on Speed Vision and across Europe on Motors TV. It's great to have you with us. Hope you're enjoying some Australian touring car action with the V8 Supercars and the Shell Championship Series.
Or as Barry would say, Motors TV.
Motors.
Look at this battle. Look, they're all over each other. Look how far back this queue goes. All the way back from Stephen Richards in 9th position. Look at them all. One battling position. Tony Longhurst in there too.
Just shows how competitive. And look where Tander is. I mean, it's just incredible.
And this is what happens in these sprint races with no pit stops, providing the drivers with an opportunity to try and leapfrog the field by way of doing some brilliant pit work. You just get caught up in this train. The cars are so evenly matched. Very, very hard to pass unless the car in front makes a major error.
And it's so frustrating here because you just don't have the normal security and grip under the car that you traditionally have. I described it to somebody earlier today. When you run at Wanneroo and your car's not right, it's as though someone put 40 pounds in all tyres and you skate your way around. You can't touch the throttle, you can't get into the brake pedal the way you'd like to, and it desensitises the car. Look at Tander coming down the inside of Longhurst. He makes a good clean move.
Yeah, I remember your happy smiling face last year.
It was just a barrel of laughs.
Oh, look at this bit of contact here between Brad Jones and Tony Longhurst. Looks like Jones is trying to sneak along the inside, and the Aussie male 40 tucks in behind Longhurst. But this battle, absolutely raging. Marcus Ambrose at the front of this pair. And Ambrose really paid the penalty. The car dropping onto 6 cylinders while he was trying to run his qualifying lap. That put him back in the queue for the start. You really do battle from there.
What's happened to Morris, though, and Seton's had to come in. Morris was drifting down through the pack there, and he was being attacked by Brad Jones in the Aussie male entry.
Well, he said they learnt their lesson yesterday and going too stiff on the setup. They said they made it much softer.
Bernard. Oh, wow.
Now, for Glenn to come in, I'd say what's happened there is he's flat spotted the front right tyre. He obviously told Grant, or the crew told Grant earlier, they didn't want to come in just because of the air dam situation, but with the downforce off the front of the car would be more prone to locking a brake and damaging the tyre. You notice they replaced it.
Bernard's having a shocker, and it doesn't get any worse.
Trevor Ashby. So Paul Morris continuing to slip back through the pack.
There's Mark Larkham in the Karcher entry. Mark's actually carrying an experimental camera for the first time this weekend. Here's a replay of what happened to Bernard. Just got into the weeds, fired it around. Yeah, Larkham, Avesco, the controlling body, are experimenting with the notion of having all the cars carry cameras to try and do a better job of adjudicating when there are various issues. Obviously, the cost of the damage and the conflicting stories makes it hard for stewards and officials to resolve various questions. Just north of Perth, here is our race leader, Paul Radisich, working away with a clean sheet so far and looking pretty strong to do the business in this one. He has a margin.
1 second. Last time he crossed the start-finish line, so he's got Skaife's measure here. And the lap times, I've got to say, are pretty impressive. He's been hovering around the mid-59 second bracket, considering he started yesterday running around the mid-58s and drifted up into the high 60s. The fact he started off this second race on used tyres and he's running in the mid-59s would tell you that that Shell Ford is using its rear tyres particularly very well.
Saw a shot looking rearward from Marcus Ambrose's car there with Garth Tander behind. He just dropped the left rear off the edge of the road, climbing out at Cold Corner down at turn 6, and Garth's giving him a little love bite as they come on to pit straight. This time through, those guys will show in 15th and 14th. It's amazing the depth of talent so far down the field, and yet having an absolute battle. And look, Ambrose is out in the dirt. Look how dusty it is, how many marbles there are. And now Longhurst is all over the back of Ambrose. Looks to me like Marcus is battling a little with rear grip. The car wasn't good coming out of turn 6.
He was saying this has been a real education for him as he learns all the different phases of setup on a V8 supercar. He's just never driven a car set up this softly, just the way it rolls around and pitches and squats. He says very, very difficult car to drive, and it's something he's having to come to terms with. But you have to have the car set up this supple if you want the tyres to live on this track.
Craig Lowndes is in 5th place at the moment. He's actually kind of out on his own. He's got Todd Kelly behind, who was shown a bad sportsmanship flag last time through for blocking, because he has got a real battle going with Steve Johnson.
This is Glenn Seton's problem. Here's the tyre right here. Of course, with the front bar bent, the metal bars that hold the spoiler in place and just cut straight through the rubber, through to the belt in places, and of course that's just too dangerous to go like that.
Oh dear, so the inside edge of that tyre looking ordinary, so it wasn't a flat spot like I suggested, it was actually the air dam damaging the rubber, and that's forced him in. So good call to come in before he ended up off the edge of the road or in a wall.
Fastest race lap to Radisich was on 4, 58.73. He's done a 59.6 and he's pumped it out to 1.8 seconds, almost 2 seconds now over Skaife, who's done a 59.8. So he's just been building ever so slowly. A 10th here, 2 tenths there.
Oh, Murphy's disappeared, has he?
So as long as those rear tyres hang in on that shell forward, looks like he's got the Holton Racing Team challenge covered at the moment.
This is the best battle in the field, in the top end at least, between Stephen Johnson and Todd Kelly, and officials were warning Todd not to get too aggressive in the blocking department only a few laps ago. Now you can see he's holding more of a traditional race line, and that becomes something of an invitation for Stephen Johnson.
Battle for 6th position, Todd Kelly in 6th, Stephen Johnson in 7th. With a gap back to Jason Bright, big gap back to Jason Bright in fact. In 8th place, Stephen Richards and McConville in 10th.
I went into their transporter just before, and Todd Kelly was binding up his wrist. All the guys with Murph was taking the mickey out of him because yes, look at that. He's got this briefcase full of medication. He's got acupuncture needles in there. It's
he's probably reaching for him now because he just dropped the spot, so that'll make you feel sick.
Johnson just lined him up there. 6 laps remaining for race leader Paul Radisich. But his teammate has just picked up another position. Very critical that Steve continues to pull some points together here because he's well placed in the championship at the moment.
Looking at the engine bay of Paul Morris's car, that suggests it's got a misfire or some other problem. So that was the reason he was drifting down through the pack, which would be frustrating after a great qualifying run for 3rd. And even though yesterday a few of them shuffled by, he still started 8th for this race, which is a very competitive position. He'll be annoyed that something else is taking him out of the game.
Well, Radisich is continuing to grind him down. He's just done another high 59, a 59.7. Skaife has slipped into the 60s, and that's a 2.4 second gap now between Radisich and Skaife.
Just that word from the pit lane that the Morris car is running on 7 cylinders, so it confirms our guess.
So the field sort of settling down now.
Ingle's catching Skaife.
And Ingle actually, the last time through, was running at the same pace as the leader, Paul Radisich. In fact, this last lap through that they've just crossed the control line,
right
they've both recorded 59.8s. In fact, 1/100th of a second difference. Skaife's actually done a 60.1 on his last lap. So Mark's just a little soft in the pace at the moment, and he could fall into the clutches. We're in the closing stages.
He's just been dropping a 10th or 2 on Radisich lap by lap, and now that's allowing him to fall into the clutches of Ingle.
Motor racing cliche, but one thing to catch, Mark, you want to be well positioned to be able to try and squeeze by. Remember, these two disputed 2nd and 3rd yesterday, and it was Skaife that actually got by in the end.
Well, maybe he realised he can't stay with Radisich, and he's just looking after his tyres the best way he can, going as slow as he can go without Ingle catching.
Just thinking points, points, points.
There's been a lot of conjecture about whether or not the new format involving compulsory pit stops has been a good or a bad thing for the sport. Certainly introduced some change and some differences. But this weekend we've returned to the traditional sprint format, and I think if I had to cast a personal vote, I think that the pit stops add another element to the thing for sure. What happens in these races is that the qualifying and the drop of the clutch to some extent predetermines the outcome.
Well, you look at the Tanders and the Bowers and the Ambrose and that, they're stuck where they are and they can't get past, whereas at least with the pit stop situation, you can pull them in and get them out of the traffic and get them in and out quick, and it's
Stephen Johnson
gives you a chance.
Sorry, Baz. Steve Johnson, meanwhile, has really been closing the gap on Lowndes. Look how close he is now.
Lowndes last time through Mark is 60.8, so he's now really struggling. He'll have no rear grip, and he's a goner.
2.9 seconds the gap between our leader and second place. Johnson just having a sniff down the inside. The Gibson Motorsport Ford. Radisich's times have been most impressive.
Just listen to the throttle. You can just tell that Craig can't get into the throttle as he comes up out of turn 6, and see how much better Steve's been able to get the run there. It only makes maybe 3-4 Ks, but it's enough to put him right in contention. So any tick of the clock, Steve's going to get a better exit off one of these corners and drive straight up the inside of him. And I think he's just done it now.
Look how well those shell cars are using their rear tyres. Most impressive. Junior's battling with a dose of the fluid, as we've established, but the car is still working particularly well, as is Radisich's car. He's done another 59.9. It's very rarely that Radisich has slipped into the 60-second bracket this whole race. So these Shell Fords have got the dynamite set up for this track at the moment.
One of the cars just went past our commentary point, sounding very ordinary, like it's got a broken head or something. I think it might have been the bow or the Tanda car. The other thing that I was going to make mention of was the fact that I think the variation in the format's a good thing though too. We've got sprint races, we've got compulsory pit stops. Don't forget the Superbikes coming up tonight after sports tonight, round 8. They are in Italy this weekend, and that should be a great event. And tomorrow we've got round 8 of the Kart World Series from Portland, Oregon. Elio Castro-Neves was fastest in early practice, and he was the winner last weekend at Detroit. And again, that's coming up after sports tonight. That's tomorrow, Monday.
And Russell Ingall can close in any further on Mark Skaife with 2 laps remaining. He really has been able to close up on the Holden Racing Team Commodore, but not able to mount a challenge as yet. You can see these two treading on eggshells toward the race yesterday, as both their tyres were starting to get a bit spongy. And then it was a different situation then with Skaife closing in on Ingall. He got him toward the end. Now Ingall's trying to return the favour in race 2. Oh,
yeah, Mark's battling him, stabbing at the throttle, and he'll be doing everything in his power, and he has massive amount of experience and knowledge to try and make life as gentle for the left rear tyre as possible. Reduce the lateral load, drive the car straight, don't excite the throttle. But he's very vulnerable.
Ingall's getting very close. 1 lap remaining. 2.4 kilometres of survival mode for Mark Skaife.
And it's all bets off, because the race director has said that he doesn't mind someone driving around the inside in the closing stages when you're actually fighting for your position. What he won't cop is people blocking very early in the race or in the mid-race. So now Mark's still got a margin here as they go into turn 4. The car has got good pace through this part of the track. He's vulnerable over the top of the hill through turn 5. This is 4. And he's vulnerable coming out of 6. So see what Russell can do. Look at here. Gets through there cleanly, didn't drop much ground, if any at all. Might have even made a tiny margin, but this is the one that's been causing him a bit of grief. He might survive.
Listen to the throttle out of here.
Oh, look at the understeer on Russell's thing.
No, he's done it well.
Okay.
He's done very well.
I think it's just been controlled by Skaife to the end, enough to make sure that he finishes in second without frying the tyres. Meantime, Paul Radisich, that is the margin, folks. We're coming up to end this second heat, 20 laps down. There's the battle for second and third. Russell makes a big lunge at the end, but at the end of the day, it's a Shell Ford 1, Mark Skaife for Holden Racing Team 2, Russell Ingall for Castrol Holden in third. Greg Murphy will finish 4th as we go on board with Paul Radisich.
Good effort from Stephen Johnson.
Loud.
Just manages to fight his way up again. He's up to 5th now. Don't forget, he qualified 14th, finished 9th in race 1. He's gone from 9th up to 5th in race 2. He's looking strong for race 3. But a brilliant performance from Paul Radisich. He has not put a foot wrong so far this weekend. Pole position, 2 race wins from 2 starts. Can he make it the perfect weekend? 3 from 3. Certainly looking like it at the moment. He's got a grin from ear to ear, the Kiwi. The rat attack at Barbagallo.
Remember also, we're going offshore for the first time in the Championship Series this year to Pukekohe outside Auckland, New Zealand. I understand that tickets have sold very well in the opening week since they were released, and if you haven't already bought one and you're over there and you're into V8 supercars, I can't recommend it more highly. Here is the Shell Helix race score. Radisich, Skaife, Ingall, Murphy, Johnson, Lowndes, Kelly and Jason Bright 8.
Stephen Richards and Cameron McConville rounding out the top 10.
Just a slice of the huge crowd here at Barbagallo Raceway. They're still streaming in, and we're 2/3 of the way through the event. It's an incredible crowd. Let's have a look at the way they finished after that second race, and Radisich was the clear winner over Skaife. Still hotly disputed for second and third between Skaife and Ingall. Some movers and shakers. Well, Stephen Johnson came up into 5th, having started from 9th. Stephen Richards into 9th, having started from 14th. Looking further down to Cameron McLean, he started 19th, came up to 12th. Remember that Cameron came out of 30th from race 1 yesterday. And look at Glenn Seton back there in 30th. He started up on the second row of the grid and had that problem with the front right tyre after the air dam cut down on it from that sloppy start without the lights and having to use the flag. But certainly, as I said before, it's been a great battle between Skaife and Ingle, and Russell is with Grant.
Russell Ingle, great drive to third. You've almost pulled in Mark Skaife there.
Yeah, I was hoping to reverse it, what he did to me yesterday, but look, it was, I mean, the car's going better. I mean, it's such a hard track to set up for, you know. We adjusted the setup and we've gone for come on later in the race, but trouble is it's lacking a bit of speed in the middle of the race, so you're sort of juggling, but hopefully we'll get it right in the third one.
Looks like you've got a different attack to the championship, more for points this time. I suppose we could almost call you not the enforcer, but the conserver.
The conserver. What a dreary name, the conserver. I prefer the enforcer. Yeah, look, mate, look, you have to. But look, I'll tell you what, I'm having a go, and if I can get on the tail one of these guys, I'll tell you what, you'll see some enforcing.
We've now road tested the two formats back to back. Do you have a preference for the sprint or the endurance format now?
Look, I still got a soft spot for the sprint races, to be quite honest. I wish there was more of them this year. It's just more intense, and you can just push on for the whole race and not conserve. Endurance races, the longer races, you still have to be a bit careful, but this one's me.
Okay, good luck, and we'll see you in race 3.
Cheers, thank you.